Hello, beautiful peaches. Welcome to the Macros, Metabolism, and Motivation Beautiful Peach Podcast. I'm your host, Caitlen, a reverse diet expert, sustainable fat loss nerd, and food freedom lover. After healing my own mind, body, and metabolism from the icky, restrict, binge, food guilt cycles, I became obsessed with helping other women do the same. I spent 6 years getting my bachelor's and master's degrees in all things nutrition, dietetics, and metabolism health, go Clemson Tigers, in order to start a science-backed, never cookie-cutter, always customized online macro and reverse diet coaching business. I have supported over 3,500 incredible women in their journey to endless results, and I am so excited to help you do the same. In this podcast, I will be teaching you how to break up with the yo-yo diet cycles, tips and tricks to heal your metabolism through reverse dieting. I will be giving away my sustainable weight loss secrets, all without you having to give up a single food you love. So if you are ready to rediscover that self-love and truly become the most confident, beautiful peach possible, grab a pen and a piece of paper, bump up your volume just a little, and let's dive right in. And don't forget to snag your completely free high-protein macro cookbook. All you need to do is submit a quality 5-star rate and review on this podcast, then fill out the form in the show notes so I know exactly where to send your cookbook. This will actually also automatically enter you into the weekly macro calculator giveaway. Every week, I give away a copy of my C. Schmidt macro calculator to one lovely, beautiful peach who has left an awesome 5-star rate and review on this podcast. The winner is announced every single week in my email newsletter email list, as well as my Instagram story. You can't miss it. So leave that 5-star rate and review, and I will see you in the episode.
What is up, my beautiful, beautiful peach? This episode is going to be golden. I'm very excited. I'm going to be talking about the best macro ratio for fat loss. And I think you are going to be very surprised with some of the additional information that I have to share. So let's dive in because this is going to be a good one. I'm excited. I am sure you are excited. Let's dive in without further ado. Welcome to podcast episode, what is the best macro ratio for fat loss? Before I actually start talking about the best macro ratio, I want to do a quick cover of what the heck macros even are, okay? So the term macro is short for the term macronutrients, which just means your protein, your carbs, and your fat, okay? So macronutrients is like the overall category for your protein, your carbs, and your fat. Now, something very, very important to note is this is what food is made up of. These three, protein, carbs, and fat, okay? Protein is absolutely incredible for muscle growth and recovery. Carbs for energy and also sleep-wake cycle. And fat, second source of energy, but also hormonal balance. So many women do not realize that we need to eat all three of these and have them in a proper amount in order to have a fully fueled, feeling at its best body. Okay. I had a client who actually had a male coach for a while, and he just kept pushing her calories down and down and down. And she was having weight regain. She wasn't seeing changes happen. She's like, I am starving. I think she was eating somewhere around 15 grams of fat, which honestly, it's really not that uncommon in the diet world. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying it's not uncommon for women to be eating such a low amount of fat, or even of carbs, right? That's keto. But I think a lot of people think that eating fat will quote unquote make us fat, but those two do not literally equate to the same thing. Okay. Overeating from where our metabolism sits, overeating, aka surplus of calories from where our metabolism sits, that is what leads to that fat gain over time, okay? So I think it's important to realize that simply eating carbs, simply eating fat, simply eating protein isn't going to equate directly to fat gain, okay? And we really want to make sure we're having adequate protein, carbs, and fat. So we really want to make sure that we have enough protein, carbs, and fat, okay? No matter what phase you're doing, no matter if you are wanting to lose weight. And I really I understand I think lose weight is like the most common term in our world because we want to lose weight and we equate weight loss with fat loss. But I really, really prefer to say want to lose fat because our weight range and what our weight is actually showing up as really, really, really often does not actually show the overall results that we're having. So for example, we may weigh around 145 pounds, like in this current moment. But then let's say a year from now, we have been strength training, we have done our reverse diet, like we have been really intentional about what we're eating, our macro adjustments, all that fun stuff, as well as our workouts. And I will always say this quote a while back, and I was like, I love this. Our nutrition is the driver's seat and working out is the passenger seat. We literally cannot outwork a bad diet. And I also don't like the saying bad diet, but what I mean by this is we can't just outwork a 1,200 calorie deficit. We can't outwork, eating poorly and fueling our body poorly. We can't just go to the gym and be like, all right, it's fine. I'm just going to do 2 hours of cardio and that's going to solve the problem. That won't actually solve the problem. And many, many times it's actually going to make the problem worse because if your body is already in a space where it's in need of fuel and it's in need of, your metabolism's in need of love, then adding cardio to the situation is just like adding another stressor to your body. And cortisol is going to say, whoa, pal. And everything starts to go a little bit more haywire. So totally different topic here. But it's really, really important to make sure that we are fueling our body best. Okay. We're going to get more into this shortly. Now, why do we track our macros? Okay. What is the importance of tracking macros? So number one, tracking macros is, in my personal opinion, the best way to have so much food freedom. Okay. I personally came from a space of the restrict, the binge, the food guilt cycles. I was in a space where I was that person who was like, I'm just going to do 2 hours of cardio and I'm going to make up for quote unquote getting off track, for the binge, for eating quote unquote bad food, right? I was really, really stuck in the diet mentality. I hadn't unlearned it yet. I hadn't healed my metabolism yet. I hadn't healed myself, my body, everything yet. Okay. I was in that space of really, really struggling. I was at my lowest low and it was not a fun place to be, fun time to be. Okay. I started tracking macros, and I will say I started tracking macros in a way that was not sustainable. I'm a very big perfectionist. I am a type A person, work in progress. Sometimes my husband will be cooking dinner and I get on to him because I'm like, well, it's like, you get to cook dinner tonight. Like, yeah. Or he'll say like, I'm going to cook dinner. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I'll get my glass of wine. I'll sit and I'll, relax. We've got our jazz music on. Like I'm having like a full on like Zen moment. And this actually literally just happened this weekend. And he was, okay, well, I'll give you this actual example. So he's cooking a steak. He's got the Brussels sprouts. We're doing asparagus. We're doing risotto, like full thing here. We've got all the goodies going on. And I can't help myself. I cannot help myself to get up and take over. And I literally started cooking the steak and he was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. I can't help it. And so out of the kitchen I went, and it's just, I'm a type A. It's a work in progress, and that's okay. And so when coming and relating to macros, because I am a perfectionist, I am a type A person, which it is also like a blessing and a curse. So like it's a blessing because my clients are like, man, that chick is organized. And I'm like, yeah, that's right, I am. But it was when I first started tracking macros, I really took it to a level of that a lot of people out in the world take it to, of using it for restriction. Okay. And saying, I'm going to be tracking 1,200 calories. I'm going to be eating in an unhealthy low space. And I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat that. My screen's giving me a thumbs up. And I was in a place where I was just like not in a good space. Okay. So I was using macros improperly. I was using them and it was leading me to more stress. It was leading me to more restriction. I was not using it in a way of food freedom. Fast forward a little bit and I actually invested in myself. I was one of the scariest, best investments I've ever made. This was prior to me going on and getting my bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics. I was actually on a path to become a dentist or orthodontist. I had braces for 8 years and then also had retainers. So I had braces on my mouth, had all kinds of stuff going on. But fast forward, I ended up changing my bachelor's to nutrition and dietetics with actually the intention of going and working at a hospital as a dietitian, but ended up getting a master's degree in sports nutrition and exercise science. And I absolutely fell in love. I fell in love with macros. I fell in love with helping women lose fat. I fell in love with helping women find the freedom from the restrict, the binge, the food guilt cycles. And man, oh man, have I been grateful to be running this company for the past 10 years of supporting. I mean, at this point, I think we're actually close to like 4,000 women, but just supporting so many women through this freedom. So My point with this is I made this mass investment in myself, and it was scary. It was a large investment, but I was not wanting to pay any more money to these quick fixes. I was not wanting to pay any more money to these things that were promising fast changes, and it was just leading me to longer term problems. And that's when I discovered how to track macros to find freedom. And that's where honestly, like it initiated for me that change in my trajectory. Okay. And the way that I support my clients in tracking macros is I want you to do the real world things. I want you to go out to eat. I want you to travel. I want you to stop and get that Starbucks randomly. Like I want you to do the real world things because I want you to live your life the way that you want to live your life and also see those changes happen. And also, if I am going to sit here and tell you you can or cannot have certain things, you will not be able to sustain that. That is not going to last long term. I learned that personally myself through my own personal experience as well as my education. So it's kind of like a double whammy there, which is why, honestly, that's what makes me really, really stand out. And that's what really, really makes my clients have such an absolutely incredible program and experience in the program because I've been through it. I see you, I hear you, I know what you're feeling. And also I can help you on the educational level of supporting you through that. Okay. So food freedom, macros give you so incredibly much food freedom. Number 2, it's better for your body composition. So for women who are just tracking calories versus women who are tracking their macros, the women who are tracking their macros tend to have a better body composition than those who are just tracking calories because we can actually be intentional and pay attention to our carbs, to our fat, and to our protein, and then adjusting those strategically to change our body composition, okay? 3, comfort and confidence of knowing we are eating the right amount of food for our body. So this is what I have in what I teach for all my clients, honestly. But basically, when we are having the proper macros, we know without a doubt that we are eating the right amount for our body, as well as when we are adjusting them properly. And this allows us to really lean into the space of saying, hey, my weight fluctuated. Maybe you normally weigh 170 pounds and you wake up and your weight's around, 175 or so. That's such a normal fluctuation, I have all my clients track their weight with a range because our body is going to fluctuate. That's just what it does. And so you wake up the next day and you're, give or take, it shows the scale. You're not actually 5 pounds more. You have not gained 5 pounds of true fat overnight, but your weight has fluctuated and that's okay. So the scale is showing a higher number. And the beautiful thing about macros is you can say, hey, no, I hit my macros. I've been hitting my macros. I've been right on track. I've been doing a proper reverse diet or proper calorie deficit, right? You're doing those in a way that's actually strategic and actually correct for you and your body. And so without a doubt that you haven't just automatically gained 5 pounds of true fat overnight. That would be 1 pound of fat gained is 3,500 calories. So what is 5 times 3,500? I mean, it's a lot. Somewhere in that, like 1,600 calories, it's a solid chunk of food. And you did not just consume 15,000 calories overnight. That would be, I actually don't think it would physically be possible. I could be wrong, but I don't think it would be physically possible, okay? So tracking macros literally gives you the comfort that you are right on track. It gives you the comfort if your weight is fluctuating, you're A-okay, you're just fine, which is also why I really, really support you tracking your body measurements, tracking how you're feeling in your clothing, right? Tracking those things outside of the scale, okay? And 4, so we can properly adjust our macros. This is massively, massively, massively important. And we're going to get into the fat loss part of this very shortly, okay? So when it comes to calculating our macros, our starting macros, again, we're going to get into the fat loss and the nitty-gritty here shortly. I actually do not recommend using specific ratios for calculating your macros. So I will have people who they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, Caitlen, and a lot of apps actually do this. Like MyFitnessPal, My Macros Plus, a lot of apps use ratios. I'm just like, I'm not into that. That's not the best way to calculate macros. The way I personally calculate macros, I've had so many people ask me, so I dropped it into my macro calculator and then create a little mini course that goes with it. So you can actually get those in my C. Schmidt macro calculator. I'll have that down below in the show notes for you. But basically, I don't recommend using specific ratios. It's actually funny. So there's technically a 4-step process, 3 to 4-step process when it comes to calculating our macros. And the way that I do it for all my clients, the way that I have it laid out in my macro calculator. But a lot of apps will say, okay, you have blank percent and blank percent and blank percent. And it's not actually going to support having the most accurate numbers for your protein, carbs, and your fat. Remember, protein for muscle growth and recovery, carbs for energy balance and sleep-wake cycle, and fat as a secondary source of energy, as well as our hormonal balance, okay? So what I personally like to do, what I like to do for all of my clients and what I have laid out in my macro calculator, first, I like to figure out what's going on with your metabolic health, okay? You do not want to use just your height, your weight, your age, and activity factor. You can actually go ahead and listen to episode 114, why you should not use MyFitnessPal to calculate your macros. This will actually be a really, really great example. Go listen to that episode because it's going to walk you through why not to use MyFitnessPal to calculate your macros.
I want to interrupt this oh so lovely podcast of mine to let you know all about the Reverse Diet course. This is my high-level course for women who want to learn exactly how to adjust their macros and heal their metabolism through reverse dieting so they can eat more food, lose more weight, yes please, and take control over their body and results. Reverse dieting is a process that needs to be custom to you as an individual and your metabolism. This is exactly why I have included the Reverse Diet Checklist, which will walk you through exactly when to and when not to adjust your macros based on your own personal biofeedback every week. I've also included my own personal coaching template called the Reverse Diet Plug and Play Spreadsheet, which honestly alone is worth hopping into the Reverse Diet course for. It holds literally all of my knowledge in one spreadsheet of exactly how much of protein, carbs, or fat to adjust, because they are all adjusted separately, to make sure that you are having a kick-butt reverse diet. In addition, because we love a good bonus, you will get access to the macro calculator to make sure that you are actually having proper starting macros. We want that good, solid foundation. You will also get bonus access to my alcohol plug and play tracker to make sure that you're able to pop that bubbly and celebrate this amazing journey while still having the fun cocktails. So go ahead, grab the Reverse Diet course. The link is down below in the show notes. And if you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out on Instagram at CSCHMIDT.fit, and I am here to support you. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
Second, though, what I like to do after we have what's going on with your metabolism is we can calculate your protein, okay? And I use a golden range. It is going to depend on the person, which is why it's not just like a one size fits all, which is also why I have put it in my macro calculator. But protein is actually based off of kilograms, not pounds per body weight. And leading up to changing my major, so bachelor's degree to nutrition and dietetics, I honestly was calculating protein before I had the education based on pounds, just because so many sources say that. And now looking back, I'm like, but like, where were those sources? Did I literally just type into Google, like how to calculate protein? And that's how I found it. That's not what we want to do. And I had so many exams in college where I kept getting the question wrong. And our professor must have known that everybody gets this wrong, because I think it was on like 6 tests in a row. And I kid you not, I actually got it wrong. I think like 3 of the times, somewhere around there. And it clicked. I was like, wait a second, I'm not going to get this wrong again. Like I will not get it wrong again. And I had it finally pounded into my head that it's kilograms, not actually pounds, okay? So that's what I like to do first. I like to calculate our protein based off the kilograms, and there's a golden range for your protein that you can actually do based on you, based on your body, based on preferences. That is taught in the macro calculator because it is a very, very custom to the person, okay? Third, that comes next. Now, this actually is going to be a percentage of our overall intake, okay? So once you have your protein calculated, you can do your fat percent to make sure that we have proper hormonal balance, secondary source of energy. We do not want to be just slashing our calories and then all of a sudden eating like 15 grams of fat. We want to make sure we're eating adequate fat to make sure our body's functioning at our best. And then actually what's interesting too is for carbs, I still don't do, I think the only one that has like a little bit of a percentage, which I guess could be a percent ratio, is the fat. And then last, carbs is actually going to be easiest because it's going to be the leftover from after calculating your protein and your fat. So it's very interesting. So I don't just do ratios. It's a very, very custom per person, custom per your metabolism setup there, where it's not just a cookie cutter answer. Okay. Now, this all being said, you're still like, okay, quick, Caitlen, cool, but like macros for fat loss, let's talk about it. Like, hello. And I'm here for it. Okay. So the important part when it comes to actual fat loss and when it comes to macros, while yes, we absolutely want to make sure we have the best starting macro goals because we want to have the solid foundation, okay? If we're going to go into a reverse diet or a calorie deficit or whatever it may be, we're building from a foundation that is cracked, just like a house, it is going to eventually crumble. However, if we are building on a foundation that is really, really rock solid, you have the most perfect starting macros, then your foundation is going to be solid and you can easily grow from that, okay? So while yes, we want to have a great starting macros, we want to have the proper protein, the proper carbs, the proper fat, there's actually there's no such thing as a quote unquote proper amount, proper ratio for fat loss for your macros. That's not the way that it works. When it comes to fat loss, and I think I have an example here, kind of, sort of, we actually need to be adjusting our macros every week to every few weeks, okay? Too many women expect us to have one set of macros long-term, and that is it. Now, let me give you an example though. So let's pretend that we have somebody there is an example where we can actually hang out with one set of macros. So let's say that we are somebody who has not been dieting. We have never dieted. We are currently eating 2,700 calories as the sake of example. Yes, you actually can have your starting calorie deficit numbers, and you might be able to drop a solid like 50 pounds using that. Probably not. You'll probably still have to do some adjustments in there, but you'll be able to get some weight off. You'll be able to drop down like 10 pounds, 50 pounds, however many pounds it is. I don't want to put a solid number on that just because everybody is so different. However, the thing to expect and to think about is a lot of times people will start tracking their macros, for example, and they have no idea if they have a slow metabolism. They have no idea where their metabolism needs to be. They just calculate their macros, and it's like, a lot of times they go to like MyFitnessPal or something and it shoots out numbers, and either you don't see changes happening or you see some changes happening and you completely plateau. It's not because you didn't have the right ratio for your macros. It's not because the ratio was inaccurate. Obviously, yes, you do want to have that solid foundation because we want to grow from a solid foundation, but that's not the reason that you are finding a plateau with your fat loss. The human body is way more complex than that. And there are so many more factors that come into play. Okay. So number one factor that comes into play here, I actually have a list. The person, and if they're actually hitting their macro goals. Okay. If you have your proper starting macros and you say you're tracking your macros, but you aren't really hitting those goals, you might be hitting it like 2 days a week. It's basically like my example where I say it is like trying to get to Rome in Italy using a map of Florida. Like, you're not going to be able to get there. You're not hitting your macros. You're not going to get to where you need to go. So if you're not going to hit your macros, then your body's not knowing what you're doing and you're not going to be able to progress forward. So number one, that's an example of someone who hasn't actually hit their macros. So you don't even know if your macros work or not because you haven't hit them, right? You have to consistently hit your macros. I would say give it like 1 month solid, see what's going on, hold it for another month, reach out if you need to. If you're like, Caitlen, I've been holding for 6 months and nothing's happening. Please reach out. But if you're not hitting your macros, obviously you're not going to be able to progress forward, okay? Number two, if the person is starting in a calorie deficit or a reverse diet, so like that's going to be really, really huge. So if you are somebody who is eating 1,200 calories, you can change up your starting macros quite literally as much as you want. However, you will not properly be able to lose fat until you actually heal your metabolism first. So AKA go from that 1,200 calorie point all the way up to 2,600 calories. Then you can do a safe calorie deficit. So I think a lot of people, and I brought this up in, before, but you can't outwork a bad diet. And I really don't like the saying, I don't like a bad diet, right? But it's true. Like, you can't outwork that. You can't outwork bad nutrition. You can't just throw cardio into the mix. You have to have proper nutrition, proper macros, proper macro adjustments, right? That's what's going to be in the driver's seat, the macros, the macro adjustments, and the overall nutrition there, okay? And I guess you could even say like just randomly adjusting your macros or trying to change up that macro ratio, again, is not going to be the problem. Okay. The problem is that you have a slow metabolism. And so I think a lot of people come and they say, hey, Caitlen, what's the right macro ratio for fat loss? And it's like, well, there's so many other factors that we really need to pay attention to here. Is, have you been tracking your macros? Where did you get them calculated? What does your metabolism look like? Do you have a slow metabolism? Have you ever reverse dieted? Do you have a rock star metabolism? There's so many different pieces that come into play when it comes to really seeing what's going on with your body, why you are indeed, in fact, in a plateau. I do have 2 podcast episodes here that you might be interested in. Podcast episode 98, 6 ways to determine if you need a reverse diet, and episode 97, adjusting macros to avoid weight loss plateaus. And also, I always like to throw this in here. If you're just like, I just want to know if I have a slow metabolism or not, go and grab it's totally free, but my metabolism report, completely free. It'll help you determine exactly where your metabolism sits, where it needs to be, and then whether or not you can do a calorie deficit or if you need a reverse diet. Okay. It's not going to give you your starting macros. Please, please, please note that. If you would like your actual starting macros, that will be the macro calculator. Okay. Now, number 3 here, how your body responds to these macros. Okay. Now, if you have been dieting for 30 years, your body may not be the fastest to respond. It might be holding strong in that protective mode, holding on for dear life. So instead of beating yourself up after just 1 week or 1 month of tracking your macros and hitting those goals, give yourself a little time to adjust. Give your body time to gain the trust back in yourself. And instead of trying to like jump back down into a deep calorie deficit again. Okay. And then 4, I cannot repeat this enough. You will need to start adjusting your macros, okay? Our bodies they need to have the stimulus of our macros being adjusted every week to every few weeks, depending on the person, depending on what's going on year week to week. It's like, I have a note here too, I think. So exactly, like after your body has gotten used to its initial macros, as long as they have been calculated properly, right? Why there's no such thing as just like a proper adjustment for fat loss. Then you can start to adjust those to really help your body start to move forward. And you're basically putting yourself in that driver's seat with your macros, with your macro adjustments, and with your nutrition. You are sitting in the driver's seat with those 3 things saying, hey, I'm going where I need to go, right? I've got the proper starting macros based on my body, my metabolism. I've got the proper macro adjustments. I know exactly what I need to be doing. And also I'm going to be fueling my body at its absolute best. I am eating the food that I love. And also I'm fueling it with, the very nutrient dense foods. You have this moderation. You are using macros to your benefit and to your food freedom. You're in the driver's seat and you're going to be going forward. Okay. So to really answer this question, what is the perfect macro ratio for fat loss? There is no set ratio. There is no such thing as a perfect macro ratio for fat loss. Example, more protein, less protein, more fat, less fat, more carbs, less carbs. No such thing. Yes, we want to have a specific starting foundational macros, right? To make sure we have a strong foundation to build on. However, when it comes to fat loss, we need to, number 1, make sure our metabolism is thriving. If we have a slow metabolism, we need to do a reverse diet first, okay? And also, once we have finished that, we have a thriving metabolism, then we can safely, again, adjust our macros to go into a calorie deficit. So I love this episode because so many people don't realize that it's not just the answer isn't just like you don't have the correct macros. It's that it's a very, very complex, very in-depth dependency on the person, your metabolism, your lifestyle, your goals, your diet history, which is why it's so important to me for my clients. If you're someone too who's just like, Caitlen, I just need the help, like reach out to me. I love, love, love what I do. I've been a coach for the past 10 years. And this is why I created my Beautiful Peach Mastermind, BPM, which is my high level coaching program for women who want to learn exactly how to adjust their macros on their own for reverse dieting, for calorie deficits, for lean bulks, for transitioning between all of them, for going intuitive, who want to really heal from the inside out, who really want to take a focus on healing your relationship with food so you're no longer sitting in this world of good food, bad food. So you're no longer sitting in this world of fear of going out to eat. I want my clients to go out to eat, to travel, to do those real world things so you're able to see those long-term changes. And I am a very, very hands-on coach because I know so many women get burned by the diet industry and they lose their trust in their self. And they're sitting there like, am I ever going to see results? I don't want to take action because I'm so terrified of failure. You will not fail. I will not let you fail. And also, it's why I am by your side every step of the way, why we do have those weekly check-ins to make sure, hey, let's go ahead and tweak this, or hey, you are right on track. Talking to you every day, making sure you're feeling good, making sure BPM is the last program that you will literally ever need. So I get excited. If you are like, heck yes, Caitlen, I want that. I think I might be about to sneeze. If I pause and sneeze, I apologize. Sometimes it starts to come up and it's like, it starts to tingle. I'm like, am I going to sneeze? I don't really know. But if you are just like, Caitlen, I want your help, please. The application is going to be down below in the show notes. If it takes you to the application page, you can apply. There are spots available. If it does not, it will put you on a wait list, but it will notify you that if you are or are not. Payment plans, investment, all that good stuff's in the application, so you can get a really good idea there. I'm a very transparent person in that sense, and I'm excited. So I'm excited to share this episode. I hope it's really, really eye-opening for you ladies. And I just appreciate you for being here and listening to my nerdy self. So if this was helpful for you, please let me know on Instagram. I love it when you reach out, and also share it with a friend. I think I said this in one of the past episodes, but the diet industry really commandeers all of the social space. And so for me, like being able to support this number of women in a billions and billions, I don't even know how many people there are in the world. I have actually clients all over the world, which is kind of fun. I have somebody in Dubai. I have someone in Australia. I have someone in Canada, in the States. I've got Netherlands. It's really cool. I cater to really busy women and I cater to different time zones. So it's really, really awesome. And how cool to hang out in a group of women from all over the world who are like in the same. Also how cool that instead of going to work at a hospital, I was able to create a company and to support so many women who are so around the world, but still in that same space. And that's kind of the point of like the diet world really takes over the world. Okay. It really has taken over the world. So if you're in my corner of that world where we are breaking up from the diet industry and you're like, I resonate with this, I love this, I want this world, like share it with a friend, because that's the only way that somebody else is going to find out about it. And that's the only way that we can continue to push this, this food freedom and this growth. So with all that, I appreciate you so much. I'm always here to help. Please never forget your worth. You are so worthy. If I could do it, you can do it. I was at the lowest low. I thought I was going to be stuck where I was forever. I thought that I just didn't have enough willpower. I thought I was a failure. Your failure does nothing but teach you what you do and do not want. You want sustainability. You do not want dieting. Nothing changes it if nothing changes it. If you want to be the woman that you are proud of, you absolutely have to get out of your comfort zone. Dieting feels comfortable, which is why so many people, so many women stay exactly where we are. You have to get out of that comfort zone. So I am so excited. I don't know why I'm excited. I guess because I just love sharing this. And I feel like I'm excited that you might be excited to learn these things. So I appreciate you all. Please never hesitate to reach out, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, my beautiful peach.